All right, so this is the first lesson that we're going to move on to regarding themes. So firstly, what I want you to do is to read through the questions. I'm going to read through them in a moment and write them down, or at least write down your answers to these. And we're just going to do a recap from the previous video. So first question, what are aspects? So in the previous video I went through what aspects of a text are. So write down what aspects are and what that means. Next question, what are the aspects we are focusing on for our film study? So there's lots of aspects that can exist, but we're only going to focus on a couple of them. What are we focusing on? Next thing is what helps to make an event important. So this was covered in the previous lesson. Can you recall that? And what are two events that you think are important that you would have done in the last lesson? And lastly, today's focus, as I said before, is themes or ideas. So recap to yourself from a written text study or from your own wonderful brains. What is a theme? Okay, I'll give you a chance to pause those. You're going to try to answer those 5 questions, and then we will come back together. Okay, assuming that you've paused, you've had a go, and if you've got any that you're a little bit stuck on, I will be going through them now. So aspects are the things or parts of a text that we study. So they're the things that we're going to discuss or analyze and look at. They're also what our essay questions are focused on. So by looking at those aspects, we are better able to answer essay questions when it gets to the externals at the end of the year. What are the aspects we're focusing on? Well, we, for the Peanut Butter Falcon, are looking at characters, relationships, themes, and events. What makes an event important? So that's what we learn or gain or understand when we watch that event. We don't just want to look at if this didn't happen, then this wouldn't happen. We want to be thinking more about what we can understand, how they make us think, how they make us feel, what they make us think and feel. Events that are important, this is obviously going to be your choice. I think Tyler going back to get Zach is really important. I think when they talk about being a good guy or a bad guy, and also the preacher scene, which I know there's 3 events, but those are 3 that stick out to me as important events. Today's focus is themes or ideas. So what themes are concepts. So an idea is something that you see or learn about in the text, and a theme is something that's developed basically from an idea into a sentence rather than just being one word. So a theme is something, or an idea is something that you're seeing recur in the text. So through the events, you're seeing the same kind of idea coming up. You keep thinking about friendship because of things that come up in the text and because of the events that happen. So that is what an idea or a theme is kind of based around. They keep coming up. If you imagine you had a theme for a birthday party, and you would have, if you had a themed party, you would have costumes, you would have cups like that, you would have food like that. So they're all aspects that help to show that theme. So there's the same thing appearing again and again. It could be in the decorations, the food, the drinks, the decor, the costumes, all that sort of stuff. So it keeps recurring, or it keeps happening, or you keep thinking about it. That's an idea or a theme. So when it comes to the terms themes, ideas, and messages, they're all fairly similar. Another one you might get is lesson rather than message. So the reason I've exposed you to those words is that those words are kind of interchangeable. They do have slightly different meanings and they do look slightly different. But if I expose them to you now, then hopefully when it gets time for the exams, if the word isn't theme, or if the word isn't idea, or if it's not message, or it looks slightly different, you'll at least have a couple of words that are synonyms, so similar meaning words that you'll be familiar with. So an idea when you're studying a text is normally 1 or 2 words to sort of describe something. A theme is when you take that idea and you write it into a full sentence. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And a message is similar to a theme, but the idea is that it kind of comes out in a complete sentence that is a lesson or something you can fully take away from it. And I'll show you what that looks like. If you can just get the difference between an idea and a theme, that's the priority. The message bit's a little harder, and it might not seem so clear to you, so don't worry if you can't do that. The themes and ideas, good to try to get you away from one-word ideas and move into thematic sentences, which means a theme sentence. It sounds better, it sounds smarter, it's a little more developed, and it's going to help you get better grades in your essays. So, brainstorm time. As I said before, ideas are concepts that appear in a text that we're made to think or feel about. So through every event that happens in the Peanut Butter Falcon, there is an idea at the heart of it. There is something that the director wants us to think about. They are present through the events and the actions that take place. And as I said, there's something that the director is trying to, or the writer, if it was in a written text, is trying to point us towards. So take a moment now and in your book or device, brainstorm. What are some ideas or themes or messages that you can see appearing in our text, the Peanut Butter Falcon? So pause the video and try and see what you can come up with. I'm assuming that you've done that and you're now ready to see some of the ones that I've started with. So these are the ideas, themes, messages kind of grid that I've come up with, and these are 4 ideas that I've come up with. The idea of belonging, the idea of friendship, the idea of dreams, and the idea of disabilities. Okay, so what I want you to do is to copy those down. You can make up a grid like this if you're on a device. You can draw or rule one up in your book, or you can just kind of have loose columns if you're doing this on a piece of paper. So the idea of belonging is an idea. It's one word. The theme is finding a sense of belonging. So that's a sentence, okay, and it kind of clarifies a little bit more. So the theme of finding a sense of belonging. The idea is just belonging. It's simpler, but it's quite broad and brief. Theme, finding a sense of belonging. The message is something that's kind of a complete sentence that we can take away as a lesson. So we all need to find a sense of belonging. So that's kind of a message that you can take away from it. So you look at the idea of belonging and you come away with that message. You look at the idea of belonging and you can get the theme that we are finding a sense of belonging. So what I want you to do is to try and come up with a theme for the ideas that are there. If you can do the messages, that's great. But if you find that kind of confusing, don't worry too much. Or if you can do the message but not the theme, that's fine. What I want you to do, though, is to take those basic ideas that are there and develop them into something more. So a little more detail and a complete sentence. So when you think about the Peanut Butter Falcon and you see the idea of friendship, what's the theme behind that? Friendship what? Friendship is good. Friendship is bad. Friendship happens with only people that are similar to you. How do you see friendship being shown? How do you see dreams and having dreams being shown? And how do you see disabilities being shown? So they're all ideas in the text. Try and think about how specifically they're shown by developing them into a theme or a message. So give that a go. And you're going to try and also you'll see that there's a blank one there. I want you to try and think of an idea that I haven't given you. So I've given you 4 to get you started. And if you did that brainstorm before, you might find that we've got similar ones. But if you've got a different one, I want you to add that on. So pause the video and try give that a go. If you're really struggling, stick around and I will come up with, I think, the messages for you to give you a little bit more detail. All right. So here are the ideas. Once again, the themes are still blank for you to try and give it a go. And the messages, you can try and copy those down. So when I look at the theme of belonging, I've already gone through that message. The idea of friendship, the message we get from the film when it comes to friendship is sometimes we can find friendship in unlikely places. Another message we get about friendship is we all need to value our friendships. Another message that we get about friendship is friendships can offer us so much. So those are messages or lessons that I gain from that idea. When I think about dreams in the text, the message I get about dreams that I take away when I look at Zach and I look at Tyler is it is important that we pursue our dreams. When I see the message, when I see the idea of dreams, I also think about the message that sometimes our dreams can change. And that's totally fine. I'm sure Tyler didn't have the same dreams that he had at the beginning of the text to what he kind of had once he got to know Zach. When I think about the idea of disabilities, the message I take away about disabilities, because obviously Zach is a person with Down syndrome, is that we shouldn't define people by their disability. If all we saw was that he was a person with Down syndrome, and that's all we saw him as, then we wouldn't get to see his awesome character and his personality that goes along with it. So that was one of the things that was also in one of the other videos, is you don't say he's a Down syndrome person, you say he's a person with Down syndrome, because he's a person first and then the disability comes second. So that kind of links in with that as well. So if you were stuck, feel free to copy down those messages and then try and think of the theme that comes back to them. So a theme is a little bit shorter. It's kind of like the in-between of those. So if you look at the belonging one and look at the idea, and then it develops a little bit into a theme, and then it develops into a message with a full sentence. So you can pause the video and copy those down. Assuming that you have seen those, you've got them down, or you've come up with your own ones, here is a filled in grid. So friendship. When I think about friendship as an idea in the text, the theme, nice and simple, is the importance of friendship. So the difference between the message and the theme is that they're full sentences that go a little bit further. So the importance of friendship is that it can offer us so much, that it is valuable, that it can be in unlikely places. So the message just kind of expands on that a little bit more and makes it even more specific. The theme that I developed from the idea of dreams is the importance of having dreams. So suddenly, instead of just saying this shows the idea of dreams, you go, this shows the importance of having dreams, which is automatically a more developed sentence and therefore a more developed idea. And therefore, it's going to work better when you are explaining yourself for essays, and it's going to make you sound like you know the text a little bit better. And lastly, disabilities is the idea, or disability is the idea, and the theme is people are more than their disability. And then that develops into a message that you can take away. So if you haven't got those down, or you found this very, very confusing, then that is what you are going to do now, is you're going to copy all those down. So as I said, you can make that into a grid yourself, or you can just draw it up in a book, or you can just write it in columns or headings in your book. That's entirely up to you. So that is the end of this lesson, because if you're doing the writing yourself and coming up with it yourself, you're probably taking a little bit longer. And if you are following what I'm doing, you're doing a lot of copying. So by the end of this lesson, the goal is that you have written down the definition of an idea. You know the difference between an idea and a theme. You have brainstormed ideas or themes in the text. You have filled out or copied the ideas, themes, and messages of the text. And ideally, you've come up with one of your own as well. If not, go back and watch the video again and record those or complete those tasks. That's the goal for the end of this lesson. Hopefully you are now aware of some ideas in the text and you've kind of thought about how they might be themes. If you don't understand the difference, that's okay. It may take you watching this again, or it may just take a little bit longer to see the difference. Once we've got them, which we have got them now, we've got plenty to work with, and you'll be able to work through and understand them pretty easily. So here's hoping, and hopefully that was relatively straightforward. I would recommend watching again if you are a little bit confused or you missed anything. See you next time.